fill tool is a massive weapon in the painting arsenal, I think. And you can use it in a number of ways. You can fill by layer, by material, by sub-object. And just like in Photoshop, you can use color tolerance. You can also fill with freeze. So if you have a very large area, similar to the freeze wand tool, you can freeze that area based off of your color tolerance. You can also fill with smooth. That will smooth out the area's color, displacement, or spec based on what you have turned on up here. You can also use lines mode. Lines mode is a way to draw a gradient, and I'll show that in a little bit here. But the hidden weapon I'm talking about is the modulation type. This allows you to fill with a pattern based off of an image. And by default, there's no modulation. If you use the fill tool, and let's bring this over here, drag that out, that'll give us a little preview of what's going on. It will also use the foreground and background colors that you have selected, but you can also use modulate color based off of two extra colors in the convexity and concavity of the colors selected here. So we can turn that off, and it will use only those selected colors up here. You can also choose the color preference to skew it one direction or another based off of the colors in the color swatches, or more toward the modulation color that we have selected here. So you can see it's more toward that orange, and now it's more toward the brown. You can also set the opacity for each of these colors if you like, using the opacity slider here. And let's skew it more toward our selected colors down here. And let's see. Let's go with kind of a yellow color, yellowy green. And let's go with some crazy green. So you can see we're actually, maybe let's select something else, something completely different from what we have selected up there. So we'll go with kind of a pink color and a blue color. So now you can see it's blending between these color swatches and these colors in the modulate section. You can also modulate the specularity. So if we turn on spec, you'll see now we can paint with, or sorry, fill with specularity, which is cool. You can also set the depth to be modulated, and right now we have a depth of 35. If we bring that down to 20, it won't actually display in the material preview very well, but if we select a modulation, it will give us a better idea, or crank it up or down. Kind of updates that little box a little better than just selecting this up here. So back down to 20%. Let's select a different, let's go with spots, I guess. Spots are cool. And if we hit enter, that will apply it. And if we click on the mesh, with whatever layer we have selected, it will fill that layer. It says filling may take a long time. Yes, that's fine. Okay, so now we have ourselves some little speckles everywhere, or spots all over this guy. Now let's hide that layer, go to a different layer, and let's drag that into the viewport. Now let's turn on lines mode. This gives us even more options. And you'll, oops, cancel that. I just want to move my preview here. You'll see that by default it places the gradient. If we click and drag on one of the points and place it on the mesh, that's where the gradient will start, or point 1. And if we click on point 2, if we place that over here. Okay, let's drag the preview over our guy here. And to make it a little more obvious, let's turn off modulation. You'll see it starts out with that green. And in fact, let's move it over here just a little bit. Let's do it from the top view. Okay, something like that. Now you can see it's going from that green to yellow. And let's click on the object. So that gives us a pretty decent gradient from green to yellow. You also have different options here by default it's set to color gradient, which is what we just did. We can disable the color gradient. We can also fade opacity. Instead of going from one color to another, we can also set it from a linear gradient to a spherical gradient. Let's hide layer 2 and go to layer 1 and drag that out. And if we look at the preview, you'll see starting from point 2, the yellow one, out to point 1, the green one, will be a radial fall off. Let's add one more layer here. Put it up at the top, and we'll hide layer 1. This time, let's use the fade opacity. And if we look at the preview, from the yellow to the green dot, it goes from yellow to opaque. The same thing happens when you use the line mode. You can see, let's drag that out a little bigger. You can see it's fading from yellow to nothing. And let's go back to color, and this time let's turn on one of the modulations, and let's turn off lines mode just for now. Now you notice in the preview, let's make it just a little bigger. Let's encompass nearly the whole creature here. Okay. We have the red spots with the dark bluish purple, but it's also using the yellowy brown and the dark green for that as well. And let's turn lines mode back on. You'll see now it's doing the very similar pattern, but it's using the purple, or sorry, the pinkish color and the darkish blue purple to fade that gradient, while also maintaining the same basic colors we have here in the swatches for the pattern. So it's kind of filtering through these two colors here for that pattern as well. Lots going on here in this tool, so I highly recommend just trying everything out. Now with these fractals also, modulation types, some of them, if it's not image based, it's one of the procedural types like fractal, wood, and so on. It has other options like the scale. We can scale this up or down. We can key in a value. Let's set that to 5. We can also set the anisotropy right here. That will skew the pattern one direction or another. Let's just set that to 5. You can see it makes it look more kind of like someone took a wire wheel to that thing. We can also lower the value. We'll go to 0.5, and it will do the same thing the opposite direction. There's all sorts of things you can do with this tool. It's very, very awesome. And I haven't really shown it, but I've just been filling the entire layer. But we can also, if we click on material, we can select the material if there is more than one, and also sub-objects. And we have 2 sub-objects here. So let's just go ahead and hit OK on that. And oh, looks like we filled the wrong one. Whoops. Let's go back and redo it. There we go. You can see using these procedurals take a little while longer than some of the other ones. So there, we've applied that and made it somewhat interesting. We can also check out these with different layers visible in here, make it look all crazy. Anyway, so there you have it. That is the fill tool. Jump in, check it out. It's awesome. Oh, and before I go, it also does respect masks and materials. Thanks for watching.